Hi there, welcome back. We're in my kitchen again where I share with you some of my favorite recipes or those most requested by my friends and family. Today we're going to be making some chocolate ganache hearts for Valentine's Day. And what these are is a fudgy rich brownie base with a nice chocolate ganache coating. I like to add a little coffee powder, instant coffee powder, to my ganache coating. If coffee doesn't excite you, it's easy to leave that out. But that's what we're going to be working on, so let's get started. First thing we're going to use is some good quality, unsweetened chocolate. Now, I happen to be using Guittard, Ghirardelli, or baker's chocolate. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it's pure chocolate, okay? And we're going to put it in our microwave safe bowl, and we're going to break it up. This is 4 ounces. And we're going to microwave it partially. We're not going to melt it altogether, but just break it up. If you're using chocolate chips, now I'm not sure you can find chocolate chips unsweetened, so maybe you wouldn't be doing that. But if you do find a chocolate that comes in the form of chips, that would be fine. But whatever you do, you need to break it up into pieces. Otherwise, it will just take forever to melt. So I'm going to put this in the microwave, and a minute or so, but every microwave is different, so just watch it closely. You want to partially melt it, about halfway. You're going to start to see some melty chocolate, but you're still going to have some chocolate pieces, but they will feel softer. Okay, so I took my bowl out of the microwave, and my chocolate is starting to melt, but there's still some solid pieces in there, but they're getting softer. Now, we're going to add our butter. This is 2 sticks of salted butter. There's no additional salt in the recipe, so be sure you're using salted butter. And just cut it into chunks. And we're going to put this back in the microwave and almost melt the butter. The chocolate will be pretty close to melted, and the butter will just have some small pieces left. So we're going to microwave this and be back. Okay, so I've taken the chocolate and the butter out of the microwave, and as you can see, I still have some soft butter floating on top, and my chocolate is pretty much melted. So what I'm going to do now is just stir it until the butter finishes melting. I could have left it in there longer and melted the butter a little more, but I didn't want to overheat the chocolate. So we're just going to stir it until it's all melted. It might take a minute, maybe less, but we just want the two to blend together. Okay, the chocolate and the butter are melted. You might have a couple little pieces of stubborn chocolate as you're stirring, and you can still see the lumps in there. So just put it back in the microwave for another 10 seconds or whatever. Anyway, this is ready. Everything's melted. Now we're going to add our sugar. We've got 2 cups of sugar. And what the sugar is going to do is cool down this mixture, because when we add our eggs, we don't want it to be hot. And right now it's pretty warm, and if I were to add some eggs to it, it might cook the eggs. So we're just going to stir in the sugar. This is all done by hand, no electric mixer needed. I've got my oven preheating to 325. This bakes for about 25 to 30 minutes, just until a toothpick comes out clean. Okay, my sugar is in there and mixed, and it has taken down the temperature a little bit. Now I'm going to add the eggs. There's 4 eggs in here that I've lightly beat. I'm going to pour them in my mixture. A whisk works best for this. So take out your spoon, or your spatula, whatever you're using, and whisk those eggs into the mixture. Alrighty, those are mixed in. I'm going to add our teaspoon of vanilla. And now we have a cup and a half of flour, and we're going to just stir that in, either with a wooden spoon or rubber spatula that I'm using. You don't need to gently fold it in, just mix it in well until all the flour is incorporated into the mix. And then we're going to pour this into a greased 13 by 9 inch pan. I like to use a metal pan, but you can use glass, Pyrex if you want. I like the straight sides of a metal pan, even though with this particular recipe it won't matter a whole lot because we're going to be cutting these hearts out of our brownie base. And by the way, this is a really good brownie all by itself. So if you just want to try some rich fudgy brownies, just use this recipe. You don't need to cover them with ganache. Sometimes I sprinkle chocolate chips on top before baking it if I'm just going to do brownies. Okay, so this is mixed well. I'm going to pour it into my pan and we're going to bake it until a toothpick comes out clean. And then we'll come back and we'll cut out our hearts and start decorating them with our ganache. Okay, these brownies have baked in my oven and they have cooled in the pan completely. Make sure they're cooled completely. I'm using this 2 or 3 inch heart cutter. I highly recommend you get a cutter that's open on the top. I have a few cookie cutters and there's a little thing, they're closed on the top and open underneath, and getting the actual cookie sometimes or brownie out of them is difficult. So I can reach my finger in here and push them out. So I'm just going to go into my pan and I'm going to press out. I've got a brownie heart right there, and you're just going to carefully push them out onto your rack. It's a cooling rack. They're cool, but we're just going to leave them there for drizzling the ganache on them. So I've got another brownie. Comes out really easily. Be careful you don't overbake your brownies. You don't want a dry brownie for these. It's better to have a nice fudgy moist brownie. And if you overbake brownies, sometimes you end up with dry, not cake-like, but just dry. So I'm going to finish cutting these out. And I'll show you how we're going to coat them. Okay, I've got all of my brownie hearts cut out, and as you can see, that's what's left. And I'm sure your family, especially your kids, would enjoy going at this tray. So we don't need those. And I'm done with this. So we've got about a dozen or 13 hearts. I do want to show you something. Once you've cut them, pick them up and just tap the sides so that any crumbs that are sticking out, you can just press them back in. These are very moist. You don't need to brush them off, just press them back in. The top on some of them may look a little cracked. The ganache is going to hide that. Don't worry about it. And these look great. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to make our ganache. Okay, I've got my pan of simmering water on the stove. I use a double boiler. You've seen me do this with the tiramisu and I think bugatti. I use my double boiler. If you don't have one, it's fine. You can use a saucepan and just put a heat-proof bowl over the saucepan with the bottom of your pan not touching the simmering water. You don't want that to get the pan to touch the bottom. It will affect the outcome of your chocolate. So we're going to put 8 ounces of chocolate chips in here. Now I buy Ghirardelli or Guittard, a decent quality. Don't buy the cheapest chocolate chips you can find. And if you really want a nice ganache, use your favorite eating chocolate, whether it be bittersweet or semi-sweet or extra dark. The better the chocolate in the ganache, the better your ganache is going to taste. But I have really good luck with these chocolate chips. I'm also going to add some coffee powder. You don't have to. Like I said, if you don't like coffee, skip it. Ganache is usually just 2 ingredients anyway, but I like the little hint of chocolate in here. And heavy cream. Don't substitute half and half or whole milk. You need heavy cream for this to set up. So we're going to take this to the stove and we're just going to stir it over that simmering heat until it all melts down. Okay, this is all melted. Didn't take very long, 2 or 3 minutes. So we're going to turn the heat off and remove the pan from the water. Okay, I have put a piece of wax paper underneath my rack with my chocolate hearts on it. Our ganache is melted and smooth and warm. If you don't get to this right away, it will thicken and it'll be hard to work with. But if it does, something unforeseen comes up, you can put it back on the simmering water and bring it back to a soft consistency. So I take a tablespoon and I bring it over and I put quite a bit on top of the hearts. And I take my offset spatula and I just push it over the edge. And after it starts to drizzle down the edge, you can take your spatula and just kind of smooth spread so you don't have any bald spots. The rest of it will just fall down underneath it. You don't want to do the underside. It will be way too messy to eat, and it will stick to the plate that it's on. And I would advise that you serve these on a plate with a fork. One of these is plenty for a very rich dessert for one serving. So I'm going to come back over and do the same thing. Push it over the sides. I've made these for tea parties, only used half the size of a heart cookie cutter because at a tea party you serve other things and this is just way too much. Like I said, this is enough for a whole dessert for one person, and after you eat one of these you probably don't feel like much else. All right, so just smooth out the top. Doesn't have to be too particular. And then just go around the sides. And as this starts to cool, you'll be able to come back and touch up. If you see a spot where, oh, I missed a spot, you can fill in, or there's a big glob. I also like to make sure the little crease up at the top is defined, and I haven't got so much chocolate there that you can't tell it's a heart. Okay, I'm going to finish covering all of these with ganache, and I'm going to leave them out for a couple hours so that the chocolate sets. These are not going to get hard. The chocolate never gets hard like the outside of a piece of See's candy or that type of thing. It will firm up, and when you touch it, it should get chocolate on your hands, but it's going to be a firm set, not hard and, you know, a crack type chocolate. So once they're all frosted, you can add your sprinkles. I will do 3 or 4 of them and then add some sprinkles. I don't think there's any risk that this is going to get hard, that the little sprinkles won't stick to it. It stays pretty soft for a few minutes, half an hour maybe. So I just come along and add my little sprinkles for Valentine's Day. Now, you know, you can make these any time of year. Hearts are not exclusive to Valentine's Day, but when I do make it at other times, I will usually use a different cookie cutter, or sometimes I'll just cut them into bars or squares and then put whatever decoration I want on top. You can even drizzle some white chocolate on top. I've used gold leaf. You can buy edible gold leaf, and you just scrape up a little bit and put a little wave or leaf of gold on there. It's kind of a ruffly effect. But anyway, so I'm going to finish these up and we'll come back. Okay, we're back. I have finished covering all my hearts with the ganache. I've sprinkled them with some Valentine sprinkles. And I wanted to show you how I serve them. These little cupcake papers, just flatten them out, just like this. Flatten them out, and then take your offset spatula and slide it under the heart and just set it in the paper. And then take this paper when you serve the hearts and put it on a little dessert plate and serve it with a fork. If you want to take them to work and, you know, share them with employees or something like that, they can be eaten like this. They're just a little bit messy. Now I'm touching the sides of them and I'm not getting any chocolate. It does set and it's not sticky, but I'm more comfortable eating it with a fork. But they can be shared that way as well. So again, just slide your spatula underneath and set it in the paper. And there you have chocolate ganache hearts for Valentine's Day. This actually made 14 with a lot of scraps and a little bit of ganache left over. I also wanted to tell you, if you looked at my Christmas cookie recipe this year, the frosted ones, those make really beautiful Valentine cookies as well. And if you, oh, you know what, before I forget, you know in the craft stores they sell those chocolate melts. They come in all different colors and some say chocolate. And don't use those for any part of this recipe. You want real chocolate, and that's not real chocolate. That is sugar and oil and some flavorings, and it just won't work here, so don't make the mistake of using that. All right, so that's it. If you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe and give them a thumbs up and leave a comment, and I will see you soon for my next video. Bye.